live and you are watching our, I think, third or fourth show. I come to you from the UK, but my colleague Susan is in Kenya. And primarily, this Updates live show is for the Kenyan audience, wherever you are in the world, and for anybody who has an interest in Kenya. We are now looking towards trying to summarize the events of the past week. We know that a lot has been going on during the past week, and we have Susan who's going to give us the highlights of that. However, as you will see from our thumbnail, the primary focus of today's discussion is going to be about artificial intelligence and the impact on the people, on people's rights to justice and fair and due process in the country. As much as we appreciate the role of AI, we also know that it also comes with its own problems, doesn't it? Yeah, but before we get into that, we want to welcome you and ask you to join us on our live show. This is the first time we're using this particular application, this particular platform, and we hope that it's actually going to be useful because, of course, you know, we don't want to be set slaves to any specific system. It has to work for us as well, right? It has to be cost effective and also produce quality videos. So let's talk about what's going on in the past week. We know that, for example, from my previous reading, I know that we have about 200,000 students who have been locked out of HELB university loans. They're supposed to be reporting to university, I think this week on Monday, next week coming. Today is Saturday. And we're just trying to figure out, you know, will the students really have access to adequate funding to support their education? We know that the government had been threatening with non-payment of educational fees for students, and then they quickly backtracked on that. But the question is, how many students really will get access and how many will be left out? Again, we want to look at things to do with healthcare. What is happening? Kenya has already achieved, they say that it has achieved notable public health access according to World Health Organization. But that's the World Health Organization. How about you as a Kenyan? How do you feel about your access to quality health care in this day and age in August 2025? You know that we have the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill, which is part of reforms to strengthen universal healthcare coverage by the Ministry of Health. We also have SHA, which was established under the Social Health Insurance Act, and it replaced NHIF. However, the question I have for you, is NHIF back or are we still on SHA? Susan will probably give us a briefing on that. And then again, we also not forget problems that we're having in the country to do with transportation sector, which is car accidents and road safety. You know, so far we're seeing that the fatality is alarming. We have thousands of people who have died in road accidents since January to August this year. And they're dying in their tens, like 25 deaths, like 30 deaths, like that kind of thing. Why is that happening on our roads? Why are our roads so unsafe? Okay, then we have a very interesting one about Rigathi Gachagua, who is a previous deputy president and who was ousted from his position in a rather unpleasant manner. But he is returning, and there's a lot of rumors about why he's returning. Some say it's because he ran out of cash. Some say it's because of his failed attempts to try to get money from the Kenyan diaspora. Some say it's because he's coming back to campaign. Some say because his trip is literally just over anyway. Yeah. But when you look at the news headlines, it's all very confusing. Yeah. We have an issue with youth and unemployment right now, by the way, guys. That's another big issue right now. And we have conflicting reports with government sources telling us we have 11% unemployment, and where the standard newspapers report that we have 38% unemployment. Then we have others, such as the Afrobarometer survey of May 2025, saying 43% of young respondents ages 15 to 34 are unemployed and actively seeking work, according to the Afrobarometer, which is a scientific, I think that would be a scientifically done study. So, with all of these conflicting reports of between 11 to 43%, the fact is that what we know is that despite the variability in reporting, there is a big crisis of unemployment of young people in Kenya. And finally, I wanted to touch on a very interesting subject, which is about the migration of people into Kenya. It looks like many people are moving into Kenya. Kenya is seeing a reverse migration of African Americans, especially coming back home to Africa and deciding on Kenya. And the question we want to ask ourselves is why? And who is promoting this? And are they happy in Kenya? And are Kenyans happy with this reverse migration of African Americans? Meanwhile, there are so many Kenyans who are looking to leave the country and go out to the West, which is quite interesting. And the question is, if they leave, then what? Okay, so I think at this stage I'd like to invite Suzanne to maybe give us a little bit of highlights and add her own, which I did not include, add her own highlights in there. I'll also try to see how to engage you and to share our link so that you can join us in the studio. Okay, guys? So thank you very much. And yeah, welcome, Susan, to the show. Can you tell us a little bit of what's going on? What has been happening in Kenya? Is it still freezing cold? And are we done with winter yet? Or are we still in the wintry season?
Yeah, thank
Starting to
you
hit.
for the
Yeah.
thank you for the invite. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, it's still freezing cold. This week alone, this past week alone, we've had early morning temperatures of down to 11 degrees centigrade. That is really cold. It's been, people have been reluctant to leave their homes because of how cold it is in the morning. But yeah, this is our cold season, and that is what it is. That's our season cycle. So Kenyans keep warm. We know this is a season of colds and you know uh, you know chest related conditions. Those who are sensitive, just keep warm, wrap up, preempt the illness by just eating, consuming healthy food. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for that outline, Maureen. Yes, just to talk about the education. Yeah, we're in quite a really interesting phase in Kenya, where we are having moves by different departments to sort of try to placate the you know the public. The issue of education. The fees were reduced in some subject were reduced, and it's effective this semester. And then also there was the question of the boarding fees being reduced as well. They said they were going to determine what it would be. Currently, I think the boarding fees is up to 40,000, up from 6,000. That's what they paid last year. They were paying 40,000, those who are boarding on campus, and it was up from 6,000. That's a huge leap. Interestingly, the truth of the matter is that Kenyans do not have much disposable income. In fact, I was looking at the corruption. I was looking at the corruption survey that was done recently. The report was released on 5th of August, and they were saying that the bribes that are being paid have come down from 11,000 to 4,000, which really is a reflection of many things. Perhaps it's the people who are giving the bribes. That's what they can afford. And also the issue of availability of money and even desperation on the part of those who are requesting the bribes. But that's a discussion, that we'll have later on. But the disposable income is really down. I also saw a report showing that the millennials and have also started, millennials, Gen X, boomers. We've changed our shopping habits. We're reducing costs in terms of volumes, sizes. Whereas, say, you used to buy 5 liters of something, now you're buying 3 liters. Where you used to buy, we're not. Our brand loyalty is also not there. We're going perhaps for the cheapest quality product that we can get. This is what is happening, and it's seen to be as an effect of reduced disposable income. So let's see what happens with the universities. Definitely, there's a big problem there because they still own the government. The universities still owe a lot of money. There were threats for them to be auctioned some of them, and the satellite universities, was a talk of some of the satellite universities being shut down. And when I talk about satellite university, I'm talking about a KU, Kenyatta University, um, uh, space that is located differently from where the main campus is. So what they've done is, for instance, you can go to Kenyatta University somewhere in Parklands, or you can go to some place in Nairobi. They have taken up a building, so people don't have to travel all the way to the main campus. So a lot of universities have done that over the years. They've created satellite universities and sort of spread their wings to different counties, so that so they can provide education services there. So because of the funds, the government is not giving them the money they require. There's lots of money. The debt is huge. So I listened to the one of the gentlemen speaking, and he was, I think, the UASU chair, the person in charge of one, I think it was the lecturers or something like that. And he was saying that if the government pays what they're saying they're going to pay, it would be better, but they don't usually pay what they say they're going to pay, so they're in debt. When you reduce the fees again, it's good for the pockets of those who are going to school, but the question again is whether it's realistic and sustainable, or whether it's just for a season and before everything just comes crashing down. It looks to me like a band-aid proposal. The other thing is, you talked about the health. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with the health. SHA, the hospitals are saying, the hospitals level 2, 3, and 4, they're saying cash upfront. We're not using this system. We're not getting paid, so we can't survive this way, so you have to come to the hospital with cash. So it's not really working, because despite people paying in full, and SHA is paid in full 1 year in advance. So you pay, for instance, if you're assessed at, I think the minimum is 300 shillings per month. You pay 3,600 in full, in advance. So this is particularly, it's telling when you're dealing with hospital admission.
Yeah.
The system compels you to pay. You have to pay for SHA. So if they assess you high, you have to pay that in advance before anything else can proceed. It's quite a
So can I
it's a
ask a
system, and
question here,
yet,
Susan? Yeah, sorry for interrupting. Are you saying that the public hospitals are requiring payment in cash now?
yeah,
Public hospitals. So if you go
they're
there with
saying,
your,
yeah,
what happens with the people who are covered by NHIF or SHA, or people like that who have SHA, who have paid, like you said, their premiums for a year? What happens? Or even for the month?
they, it's not working. They're not getting the money. The hospitals are not getting the money.
All the
They're
hospitals, including Kenyatta, the big level 5.
two, three, level
Or
two,
is it
three,
just
four.
like I know this was happening, sorry to interrupt, but I know this was happening with mission hospitals run
Yes,
by, the churches, for example. I know they were not
faith
receiving
based.
their funding. There was even a whole list that was published by the government recently of several hospitals that are not going to be included in SHA, which are not going to be, financed or capitated or whatever it's called, financed.
Yeah,
But are we saying that anybody who gets sick in Kenya now must go to hospital and pay, even if they have
yeah,
paid their premiums?
yeah. You have to go with money. You can't
Oh
get the full
wow.
treatment you want. The
Okay.
reason being that they're
Wow.
not getting. The report I saw related to
Yeah.
levels 2, 3, 4, and that is for the cheaper hospitals. Level 4, 5, and 6 are the more expensive hospitals. So,
Yeah. So
and
so
2,
this is
3,
for the
4 is
two,
where
three, four, is where you have
that's
to
where the
pay.
Kenyans, yeah,
And
the
you see,
Kenyans,
that is significant. You know why? Because in order to get to level 6 hospital, you have to get a reference. You have to have been referred from the lower ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh wow, that's very sad.
Yeah, it's actually really sad, um, that they can't get, and it's NHIF is not functioning anymore. It was overtaken by this new system. So people are not paying NHIF. You're paying SHA. You're paying under this new system, and Yeah, I know of some people who went for were hospitalized recently, and they had that experience where they were told, well, you have to pay SHA. This is part of the admission process. You know, um, and so he was a retiree, so he paid 3,600.
Yeah.
Um,
What I
so
saw,
if you
there's
don't have
somebody I
money,
know. Sorry, I think there's a delay on this one. Huh? We're using a new platform, so I think there's a bit of a delay. Sorry, but there's somebody I know who has somebody in hospital, and she said the person has paid SHA, but the SHA only pays bed only for admissions. Everything else
yeah,
they have to pay themselves out of pocket. Any tests, any medication, anything, any procedure has to be paid out of pocket, which is very sad. Yeah.
yeah, it's actually that's what it's doing. It's paying for the bed only, and even now we're not so sure that it's going to be it's going to happen because they're not really getting all the money that they need. So if you go to the hospital, particularly as an outpatient, you have to go make sure you have some money, which is really wrong, because people have been paying for SHA, they're fully paid up, and they're not getting the services that they required. Also, the issue of youth unemployment, it's you know it's quite serious. I heard the diverse percentages in terms of how what the percentages of unemployment among the youth, and I was just listening to some young politicians, young youth. They're calling themselves like the young politicians, and they're talking about a betrayal of youth by design. They're accusing the current government of betraying them by design. Instead of promising on what they are focusing on promising on what they'll do in 2027 and not on what they should be doing at present. So they're looking ahead and ignoring the current problem, and they're not addressing youth unemployment. In fact, more recently, you know, coming to that, there's been this program, they're calling it empowerment, an empowerment program. And that one has caused quite a lot of concern, issues about the source of the money that's being used for that empowerment program that has been spearheaded by our Deputy President, Kindiki. The reports in the newspapers and in the news say that it's actually coming from affordable housing. So they're getting the money that is being paid for affordable housing, and it's being diverted and being used to be given for this empowerment program that has been spearheaded by the Deputy President. More recently, we had a visit to State House by the youth of Nairobi. So quite a lot of them went there. They had written their proposals. Some were requesting for motorcycles, others for
This
media paraphernalia.
this is part of the empowerment program.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the youth so the youth went to State House. Some of them were asking for media paraphernalia, others were asking for motorcycles, and others were asking for car wash. So there are a number of things they were interested in. So when they went there, there's some photographs. You know, when you're doing, you can look them up. There's some photographs of so many motorcycles and this youth at State House, Nairobi. And so they went there. So when they came out, they were promised the motorcycles. They took photographs in front of those motorcycles. There was an individual in particular who was photographed by the motorcycle. And he was told, you will get this motorcycle. So when they left, after the function, they left. And then he asked, where's my motorcycle? And he was told, it will be, you go, it will follow. That he said he has not received that motorcycle. So they're sort of decrying it as a sham, this youth empowerment as a sham, because it was taken for optics rather than a real, genuine need to really address the issue and provide the youth with a means to earn a living. So there was a lot of disappointment there. In fact, in his video, he challenges and says anybody who has the logbook for their motorcycle that was given to them on that day, they should share it, because he certainly did not, and he doesn't know of anybody who actually left the motorcycle. But if you see the pictures, there are so many motorcycles splashed there. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Let me try and share my screen and see if it's going to be possible to do that, to show you that particular video, which is, I mean, at least one example. Tell me if you can see this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ni mtu tunakuheshimu, lakini unaharibu sifa ya Wajaluo. Mimi naambia Jalasa na Karili Nyau, amda nitumia vibaya. Rais amejua nilipewa pikipiki, nilipe pikipiki yangu. Hata kama ni kuniua mniue. William Samoei Ruto rais, nilipewa pikipiki, na hiyo pikipiki nikapewa nao pia sikupewa. Anataka pikipiki. No, kede. Inaniuma, watu wananipigia simu nyumbani. Jamaa mpaka watu wananipigia Jalasa ameiba pikipiki yangu na Karili Nyau. No. Wao ndio walikuwa wanagawa pikipiki kwa Jalasa lazima Jalasa hapo kwa hii deal Jalasa Karen Nyamu mnipe pikipiki yangu nilipewa na rais.
Yeah, he's just one of
did
them.
you
There've
see
been
that?
others
That
where,
was seen, right? Okay, fabulous.
yeah.
Okay, good.
No, but that's just one of them. There are many posts, and there are even pictures of them, these young people with the motorcycles, at State House. But it appears it's not known what happened to those motorcycles. Let's say they were not linked with the youth, according to these young men who went there hoping to get something that will enable them to earn a living.
Yes.
So, so there's a lot of questions about the empowerment program that's been going around. The one of Kindiki and also this State House event that happened recently. The source of the money, again, and then whether the money is actually enough, because there's stories of very little money being left. At the end of the day, the women's groups who go for those meetings are not able to, they're given like 2,000 shillings or something like that, and there are 30 of them, and it's it doesn't work out right. Yeah.
Oh,
I saw
sorry.
the motorcycle somewhere.
This is the motorcycle one here, right? Can you guys see that?
No, those are the police.
Oh, those are police.
The
No, there's
young
one guy in
people
the middle.
with
There's a
many
guy in the
motorcycles.
middle with a motorbike. There's police on both sides. I guess you can't see it very clearly.
Yeah.
But the guy in the middle, I think he's the one who was talking there. But I think which is really amazing. Which is really amazing. I
Yeah,
wish I could.
you
I
there
really.
was
There were very many, I guess. Empowerment program. Okay. So let me get
yeah,
rid of
but
this. Let me get rid of this. But there's a lot. If you go to Instagram, there's a lot of them.
yeah. So
Very sad. That's disheartening for the young people. You promise them something. You know how young people are. You don't promise them things unless you're going to deliver. You don't. And then now they're blaming Karinyamo, Jalas for taking their motorbikes. He said, you can't take a picture of me on a motorbike with the president and then deny me my motorbike. You can't take my motorbike away from me. That's what he's saying. For those who don't
yeah,
understand Swahili. Yeah. So
yeah,
anyway,
it's a
very sad.
promise. And I keep
They better
saying
give
on
him
this
his
show,
motorbike.
I keep saying on this show, that millennials and Gen Zs do not like to be lied to. So you don't tell them something you don't intend to follow through on, because they have good memories. And they're very quick to call you out when they think that you have not quite met the mark. Yeah, and the other thing you talked about was road safety. Yeah, it's been quite a shocking month, actually, so far. There was one lady who lost over 20 members of her family in one go in a car in an accident. It's been really, really scary. I'm not sure what the real reasons are for that, but it's been quite a disturbing experience for Kenyans to actually observe that happening. Road safety is in a problem.
Yeah, we're just learning how to raise our hands, eh?
Yeah,
That's the only way, Susan. Otherwise, instead of all the
yeah,
time. So, anyway, yeah, you see, we lost people in an aircraft. So many
yeah,
doctors. How many doctors? I think there were like four from AMREF.
yeah.
3 or 4 doctors and a nurse
Nurses, emergency nurses, and I think
and doctors.
doctor.
I saw three
Mm,
doctors for sure. They didn't even talk about the
yeah,
pilots, yeah? But there's 3 doctors, there's a
yeah,
pilot, I believe there's a nurse. There were like about 5 or 6 people. We lost
yeah.
people who are so skilled. ICU nurse, I mean, skilled. Doctors with lots and lots of experience. They didn't even talk, I didn't even hear anything about the particular patient. Was there a patient on board? Or were they going to go and pick up a patient? I don't know, but they
I'm
were
not
going towards
sure, but they were going to Hargeisa. They're
Hargeisa.
going to
Yeah,
Hargeisa in
Hargeisa
Somalia.
is in
Yeah.
Somaliland. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
So we don't know whether I didn't hear anything about a patient being on board. It sounds like maybe they were going to collect a patient in Hargeisa. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hargeisa or whatever it is.
Mm,
Yeah. So
mm.
it's so sad we lost those people. Then again, we hear about an accident. Yeah, that has taken so many lives. So many lives. Yeah. And not even one. We have several accidents. And the question is, why? What is going on with our authorities on the roads? Is it that the roads are dangerous, or is it that there is less monitoring? Is it that there is, just careless driving? Are people depressed? What is happening? Do we have people who are not qualified to be driving? Or is the problem something to do with the vehicles themselves that are not roadworthy? Or is it because people are trying to make money quickly, so they will drive as fast as possible from point A to point B so that they can, get more people? Because you see, we had this tragic bus crash in Kisumu. I think that's the one you're talking about, 8th August. It resulted in 25 deaths, as far as I can see here. And
Yeah.
then we had another one in Yandara, an earlier one before that killed 6 people, and 35 others drowned down a cliff during heavy downpour. So we're talking about thousands of people. We're just halfway through the year, guys. We can't be losing 3,000 people. What's happening with the minister of the people in charge of roads and transport? The cabinet secretary, roads and transport, should be on top of this thing. What about the road safety issues, road safety regulations, road safety and technical audits? What about auditing them? How about you do an audit, an evaluation? I'm an evaluation specialist. Call me. Susan and I will come and do an evaluation of road safety to find out what is happening. We need to monitor and track, and we need to evaluate. We need to find out between the past 10 years, what is the situation regarding loss of life on our Kenyan roads? Is it something to do with road design? Is it something to do with road worthiness of vehicles? Is it something to do with people driving intoxicated, drunk, or not having the proper qualifications to drive? What is causing it? Or is it people who themselves are forcing drivers to drive fast? Because I've been on those public buses. I've been on public buses often, like from Mombasa to Nairobi especially. And usually it's very rare to see the passengers complaining to the drivers. Although this particular time I also heard about some passengers who got a driver off one of their minibuses this time. Yeah? Why? Because he was driving while intoxicated. It's time for us to take responsibility as passengers and say no to dangerous driving. Yes, you want to get somewhere fast, but in the end, the onus is on you as a passenger to say no. I don't want to be driven this way because it's endangering my life. Or get off at the next possible stop. Insist on the driver slowing down and support the people who are calling for the driver to slow down. Because a lot of the time, many people just keep quiet. And then in the end, you
Yeah.
lose your life or you get hurt in
Mm.
an accident. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them was with a train.
Really?
Yeah,
A train?
a train. Yeah. A vehicle crossed the railway and the train was coming. no barriers. So the safety issues again are big because there should be barriers that go down to stop traffic on the road from so
Oh,
that the train can pass. But this particular area, there's no barrier. It's actually quite dangerous, particularly in the little towns where the railroad passes through. There are no barriers. So
so this is a
the
design issue. It's a design flaw. Those
yeah,
things need to be
it's a
monitored. In these countries like where I
yeah,
am here in the UK, that would never happen. We could
yeah,
sue. That family could actually sue the government for loss of life. Yeah. Anywhere there's a train
yeah. It's
crossing, there should be warnings and barriers everywhere. Not just putting
yeah.
bumps on our roads in the middle of town, because some of those bumps are even annoying and they contribute to road rage. And they can actually contribute also to back problems, to spinal injuries. They can also worsen people's arthritis, people who have arthritis, women who are pregnant. A lot of women are suffering because of these bumps and rubble bumps that we have all over Nairobi, all over our roads, all over the country. Those should be controlled. Yeah, rubble bumps should be controlled. I don't think we need all those millions of bumps that we have all the time on the roads. And we also need sidewalks for people to walk on. That's a whole nother
Yeah,
show, Susan, isn't it? We need to have a show
yeah,
about transportation. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
What we need to do in terms of improving our roads and improving road safety. I have a
yeah,
relative who became a quadriplegic because
yeah,
of a road accident. She didn't need to. She just didn't
yeah,
have a seat belt, and the road on which she was on, I think, was a big highway. And with these highways where you have easy, like for example, Wayaki Way, where you have all these crossings, people crossing in the middle of the night, there's no lighting. You can't even
yeah,
see that there's another car coming from the other side to cross over. And you hit it. It has happened to us too, to me too. I've been hit before, the car goes swinging round and round. I was just lucky to be alive because there were no cars actually coming from, too close. Because if the car was doing this kind of thing in the middle of the road,
yeah,
having been hit, spinning, just imagine if there were many other cars coming and they were also hitting us. You guys, man, we
yeah,
should be careful with our roads. Yeah. Take it
yeah.
seriously.
It's
Take it seriously.
yeah. Watch the speed limit, observe the speed limit, and use common sense. You know, uh, don't overtake where you can't see. Approach to a railway line, you could say it's common sense. But you see, the trains cross so infrequently that probably, I don't know, I don't want to make any excuses or to preempt that case, but um, we know when you go to driving school, the approach to a railway crossing, you slow down. There's supposed to be signs from about, is it 200 meters or something like that, and you slow down, and you're told check, make sure there's no train. Even if you can see it, as long as you can, you shouldn't just cross because those trains move quite fast and they can't stop. So, but you can. So if you're in a car, so it's really unfortunate that happened. Yeah. So there's been a lot of that happening. The road safety issues. Uh, Okay, so talking about roads, there's some repairs that are going on, continuing works that are going on. I think we talked about that in our last video. Hoping that, like the Gitaro Junction, for Kenyans, they're saying they're trying to complete it. It was a mess before. The crossover from the Nakuru Highway to the Southern Bypass. Oh, the trailers and all that, you could spend several hours just trying to cross through to Kikuyu. Um, on that link road. But they're saying they're working on it and it's likely to be completed soon. I know there are Kenyans who are watching this who know that place and have had quite a few headaches in that region. Yeah. So let's observe this.
Yes, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. The junction between Gitaro, Kikuyu, and Limuru Highway. And Limuru
The
Highway
Naivasha
on
Road,
the
Nakuru
Naivasha Road.
Highway.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Naivasha Road. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in Naivasha,
Yeah.
whatever that highway anyway. Yeah, that has been going on. It has been like that for, like, should I say, 2 years. I have relatives who live in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
and
do.
it has
Yeah.
been and like you said, you can spend hours and hours. So you can't even
Yeah.
enjoy all the bypasses. They become too long. You just start using the
Do
regular roads.
because of the traffic there, it's easier to go to use the Wayaki road, Wayaki way.
Yeah,
Even though you can link from, if
yeah,
you're coming from like Memuto or Angige, you can link, just go straight down, but you'll spend so many hours in the traffic there because of the long trailers that are trying to turn into the southern bypass coming from Nakuru. um, coming from Nakuru, so they come and cross, and then they block the road, and it just becomes a mess because it's a real bottleneck. Definition of a bottleneck, that is for sure.
totally.
And it's
Yeah.
quite scary because it can happen even at night, and so you're in a queue trying to cross over. So it's better just to drive all the way down the highway, even if you live, you're coming and your residence is somewhere near there, and approach it from behind.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that
So
need to be reviewed in terms of our road safety, including
yeah.
signage.
Mm-hmm.
The signs,
Yeah.
especially with the new roads, the new bypasses that have come, we do not have signs on the roads that are adequate. They're not adequate, they're not clear.
It,
Even if you are driving,
yeah.
for example, in town, for example, like you're going towards Pumwani, Pangani, those areas from Westlands, like you're going towards Pumwani, you're going towards Thika Superhighway. We don't have enough signs that come adequately in advance that tell you you're going to carry a call. This is the way to carry a call. This is the way to Ngara. This is the way to come to Kiambu Road. That's another very complicated one. You want to go to Kiambu Road and you want to go to so confusing. Yeah, you get confused. Oh God, which one should I? And you don't have time to think. You don't have time to think, and you don't know where the next exit is going to be, and everybody is confused. Meanwhile, we have motorbikes on the left. We have a few bicycles on the road. We also have a few buses that are flying that know the route very well. Mini, it is horrible. It was horrible, guys. We need to improve our signage. Signage is super, super important.
Recently, what's the speed limit? Because when these Kenya guys are out there and they can catch you, you get a notification that you were caught over speeding on a certain road, and it's sent to you. Uh, you can find yourself facing a fine. So you better watch out for the speed limits in different areas, and don't overspeed. Yeah, just drive at the required speed. You'll get there anyway. You'll get there anyway. In fact, when you're steady, even as an athlete, when you keep to a steady pace, for the athletes watching, they know that if you keep to a steady pace, you can actually get there at a good enough time, whereas somebody who has decided to drive really fast will be slowed down. Runners, they keep to a steady pace, and they keep looking at their watches, because they know, if I run, I have to keep this at this pace, this at this pace. So by doing that, they're stronger, because the person who has run really fast, say, has got tired somewhere along the way, but you, because you've kept to your training and kept your steady pace, have been able to reach the finish line faster. So there's some science to this whole thing. So there's no need to overspeed. Just keep to the
Yeah.
speed limits.
I'm sorry to interrupt again because this is actually interesting. Are you telling me that now, because those guys, we left a little bit earlier for some of us diasporans, are you telling us that when we come to drive in Kenya, we cannot drive the way we want? That there are speed limits, there are speed signs that we should be paying attention to, and that the AI is being used to track vehicle number plates, and that you'll be getting a message on your phone, or how does it work? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Um, I think they can have some sort of gadget. So sometimes they go around to the roads to check to see whether people are overspeeding. So if your vehicle is picked up, it picks up your number plate, and because it's linked perhaps to the records at the records, they know who's the owner of the car is. So that message goes to the owner of the car. So perhaps if you're driving your wife's car or your husband's car, and so register, or somebody else's car, they will get the warning, and the information that you were overspeeding at such and such a place. By this area is a zone for 50 kilometers, and you are driving at 85 kilometers per hour, and they can levy a fine against you or give you a warning. if it's the first strike, they can give you a warning. But that's been happening. People have been getting warnings on their phones, and others have been told to pay fines. But just drive at the right speed. Yeah, just drive at the right speed. Yeah, so road safety, like you said, is a big thing, and something that needs to be studied more. We have more cars on the road. Um, we have more different types of cars on the road, and it's important that we keep checking to see that we're driving safely. I think people have started not traveling together. They keep saying, like, for businesses and companies and stuff, they don't you don't find people with the same cadre traveling at the same time they travel in different aircraft, different times and stuff like that, because there've been terrible things happening where some companies have lost their entire high-level staff in some sort of incident. Yeah. So something that is close to my heart, something I wanted us to talk about, um, was the issue of corruption, and this is something that the president himself raised at the devolution conference that was held in Homa Bay on 13th of August 2025. He called out Parliament and he called out the judiciary for being corrupt. Parliament, he said that they are the most, they are bribe takers, and they compel, they demand bribes to write favorable reports. The committees in Parliament demand bribes to write favorable reports, and or to look the other way so that something passes. Of course, there was a real pushback from Parliament, and they asked the question, who are the bribe givers? You're talking about bribe taking, but who are the bribe givers? Who is giving the bribes? Even the media houses have come out quite strongly asking the question, is that you don't just tell us that the parliamentarians are taking bribes, you should tell us who they are. There should be some sort of list. Uhuru did that. I think there was in 2015. There was a list of shame that we all remember came out of those people who were taking bribes. But he just mentioned that people are taking bribes or demanding bribes in Parliament. Of course, it's a back and forth, because the question is, like the pot calling the kettle black. you know, uh, you know, you know, we know who's manipulating the system, and so it was quite a serious pushback on that. And then the judiciary also he also claimed they were corrupt and said they're doing something. They're defeating the work of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, who want to bring cases against people, but they're allowing, they're giving orders for what they call anticipatory bail. And the the judiciary, the Chief Justice, the Law Society also chair has pushed back on some of these things. The judiciary said, well, the Law Society chair, Faith Odhiambo, said, anticipatory bail is a right. So you can't say it is corruption. It's a right for somebody to go to court, and when they can see things are moving a certain way, they are able to persuade the court that they should be given anticipatory bail. The effect of that is that you cannot just be arrested. You go to court and turn up in court, but you've anticipated that you arrest, so you apply for bail in advance, and you've got the bail. This particularly would be allowed in an ideal situation where there's something of a witch hunt going on, and that you're the fall guy or fall person in that circumstance, and because there's some sort of cover up, and so somebody will go to the court, and the court is convinced that you have sufficient grounds to be granted anticipatory bail. The Chief Justice also said that And of course, she was talking about, impunity really, about people deciding which orders they're going to follow. So the judiciary will make an order, a judge or a magistrate will make an order, and then the state will decide which orders they're going to follow, which is completely wrong. It actually undermines the role of the judiciary, because all these three parts of government are supposed to be respected. You're supposed to have the, executive has its role. I can see that. The executive has its role, the parliament has its role, and the judiciary has its role. And so, when the judiciary is supposed to, make orders, and those orders and judgments are supposed to be obeyed and followed. But we've seen actually that these are somehow ignored and only followed when it suits them. So the issue of corruption, we know for sure that as we continue to discuss it, there was a recent survey that was released on 5th of August, where Bishop Oginde, remember the prayers that he made. Yeah, there was a survey that there was a report also that was to do with the Conflict of Interest Act that had been passed. But there was a survey that was released by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and basically the Ministry of Interior, the most corrupt ministry, with the National Police Service being the highest, scoring the highest. We had health there, we had education, we had, judiciary was right at the bottom with 1%. And that's when we were talking about why do people pay bribes, And they asked 3 questions. And they said mostly it's because it's demanded. And others because they want their matter speeded up. And the other one because they don't want complications. So, those are the 3 reasons why people give bribes. And like I mentioned earlier, the amount of bribes being asked for has actually dropped from 11,000 down to 4,000. And we're talking about 11,000 last year to 4,000. Not last year. 11,000, because this survey was for 2024. We're talking about in 2023 it was 11,000, and 2024 it's 4,000. So these have been some of the things that that have been splashing all over. There's still a lot of pushback, a lot of MPs on the going on in various stations talking about corruption. There was Kabando really bringing out issues where to show that the head of state has been, even in his earlier years in politics, was among those who were implicated in political in corrupt activities when he was the Minister of Agriculture, and how they tried to corrupt him in particular, so that he would give a vote in favor of his, that was going to in favor of the Minister of Agriculture, so that that he doesn't get into problems for being a corrupt person. He said Kenya Pipeline. He talked about the Kenya Pipeline. We know they're trying to privatize it. And you're saying the head of state himself has been involved in a lot of corrupt deals there. He said he was paid, and we're talking about during Kabando's time as a politician. In the past, he was paid for services he never rendered, and also for annexing some of the property, the land belonging to Kenya Pipeline. So there are a lot of allegations that are flying back and forth about corrupt this and corrupt that is going on. And it's interesting that the president would come out with this particular discussion at this point in time. We've seen a lot of things that have been happening very rapidly, which is sort of like preempting the 2027 elections, sort of trying to placate or persuade people differently from what they've been saying. But, like for instance, now throwing now the blame to other institutions, the other arms of government, to the judiciary and to parliament. But generally speaking, we all know that none of them is above board. The survey shows that none of them is above board. But it's interesting that the worst ministry is the Ministry of Interior, and that the police themselves are the most corrupt. And then, of course,
Yeah.
the question that was being asked by Oginde was that, is it that, you know, sometimes it's not making an excuse, but it's saying the circumstances of the police, you know, that would make them to be more corrupt. Are they getting, is there issues with their income base, the issues with the perks, are they getting them, or they're living, they're abusing their power, you know, to take advantage of wananchi. We do know that wananchi are, you know, I think you and I remember when we were little, the police only used to have a baton. They never carried guns. And
That's
we used to,
true. That's
and we were,
very true. It's only the
uh,
army that we knew would do
yeah,
that.
but
Yeah.
the army were not in the streets. They were not
Yes,
in
but we
town.
would see them only on special days, like
Yeah,
on the showgrounds, like when they're coming
yes,
to, that's when you know that these are the people who are, required, or should I say, who are
yeah.
permitted to. It's true, they only had a baton. Imagine
A
that.
little, yeah, a little better. Yeah,
And
and
we
in
were
fact, we
so
used to.
scared of it. It was the same as a gun because they would use it.
No, and we used to be told that
Yeah.
if you got lost, if you get lost, you ask a policeman. Remember those safety things, how
Yes.
to cross the
Yeah.
road, safety, nursery school. You get lost, ask a policeman, he'll help you. But right now, we're not so sure we can say the same thing,
No.
you know. And yet, they've even changed their name. And we're talking about a time when it was called police force. Now it's been called police service, which means that they're more like customer friendly. They're more, you know, they're providing a service. But, you know, but we know that there seems to be a reversal of definitions of that, and people would rather not share any much with the police, even though they can help them. They're supposed to be the ones to protect them and to you know to help them. That's supposed to be a safe place. Police station is supposed to be a place of sanctuary, actually. But we know we've seen, and they're still happening, by the way. If you check the news, there's still people who are passing away in police custody. Families
Yeah.
who have, somebody has been arrested, when they go to their family, it happened somewhere in Western Kenya recently, they went there and they were told, I'm sorry, the person has passed away, you know, that sort of thing. Interestingly, and I just want to look at the newspaper here, one of the fellows who was shot in one of the protests, his bullet was finally removed after 400 days. And this is somebody called Samuel Kinyanjui. He was shot, um, and it was eventually removed just the other day. 400 days. 400 days is more than a year ago.
I saw that young man celebrating. He was so happy to have that bullet removed. It must have been so. Can you
Yeah,
imagine, you guys? Today, this morning, let me give you an example. This morning, I went outside there to do my laundry, basically, and I touched the fence. I removed something from the fence, It happened to be one of these raspberry bushes, and it had a thorn, a very tiny little thorn. And there were like a couple of them, those little tiny few little thorns, yeah? And they just stick on top of your skin. And I was like so desperate to remove them because any tiny little foreign object on my body, I feel it, right? Can you imagine living with a bullet, something that's like an inch long in any part of your body, a foreign object in our body? I think sometimes we really underestimate and we forget the sufferings of people, because this has to be totally excruciating. There must have been times when he was screaming aloud with pain. Therefore, we should not take guns and bullets lightly. Yeah? They should not be used. These are not things that we even, by the way, just imagine we don't even make them, but we buy them to hurt each other. We should even look into those kinds of laws. Why do we buy them? Why are they in anybody's hands? Yeah? That's the reason why when we look at our border security and things like that, we have to be very serious about it. Very, very serious. Because we can cause the sufferings of so many people. We just have to look around the world. We used to say, look at our neighbors, but now we have become that neighbor that has become unsafe and insecure. We used to say, oh, look at the neighboring countries, and we mention all the names. But now we have also we're now in the same boat. We're in the same boat with those neighbors we used to look at. We're in the same boat with the people we used to talk about corruption. Oh, those people are so corrupt. Those people are so corrupt. Now we're even more corrupt than they are. Yeah, so we need to safely and jealously guard our culture and our humanity as Kenyans. So it's also about humanity. It's about celebrating that win and saying that should never happen again. Bullets should not be used during demonstrations. They should not. No, they should not be used during demonstration. There's so many other ways to stop people from demonstrating, other than if you have to do it, rather than shoot, like take a gun and shoot them. So that is not acceptable in our society.
Yeah, just to clarify, um, he was shot. He was shot on 16th June 2024 during the Gen Z demonstrations. The bullet penetrated his right foot before settling in his gluteal region, and it has fundamentally altered his life, costing him his livelihood and forcing him into dependence.
What is that region? Did you say what region is that?
Gluteal,
What is the blue tail region? Blue tail, or is
gluteal.
it in his reproductive organs,
No,
or what?
I think could the gluteal be the
The behind.
the
What
let's
is it?
let's
I mean, I've
let's
never
check.
even heard of that particular part of the body. Or
Let's
I've done
check that.
I've done anatomy and physiology. I've never heard of a gluteal. What the heck is that?
Glu-
It sounds like something that's on an animal, not a human being. What is that?
the your backside is called the gluteus maximus. Yeah,
So it traveled all the way up.
glute muscles or glutes are a group of three muscles located in the buttock area: the
Wow.
gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and gluteus minimus. So it must have been it entered his right foot. So did it seem to have traveled upward? I'm not sure how
So
that
the blood has
happened.
been pushing it up. Don't play around with
His
human
muscles,
body.
yeah. So it has altered his life and all that. So just speaking of which, like I said, the president seems to be coming up with a lot of schemes to sort of like respond to issues which are pressing. And one of them is what he's calling he appointed recently somebody to lead, and this gentleman is the human rights advisor. He's called Professor Macau, to read the uh, compensation for protest victims framework. So he's supposed to, he established a coordinating framework which is under the office of the president. So he's appointed somebody, this gentleman, this Professor Macau, and also the Ministry of Interior, the Attorney General is supposed to be involved in that whole process. Yeah, and he's supposed to come up with this framework within 120 days. There's been a lot of pushback from the opposition, reason being that there's a lot of distrust because the perpetrators seem to be the government, right? So will they really do the job well? You need somebody who is impartial. So they doubt the partiality because you're talking
Yeah.
about the interior, you know.
And they have good reason. They have good
Yeah,
reason because they're the same people who are going to evaluate. They're going to
yeah.
determine who benefits from
Yeah,
that
and you
conversation. How do they
don't forget,
identify?
yeah, don't forget the type of talk that was there from the Minister of Interior himself. I mean, the Cabinet Secretary, shoot them. The President himself saying shoot them in the leg, and this is established under the presidency and all that. Instead of looking for an independent organization to handle this, so there's been lots of pushback. It's a good idea, of course, to come up with a compensation framework for protest victims. But the question is, who is manning it? Who's managing it?
Yeah.
So I was listening to the former vice president of our country and opposition leader of Wiper Patriotic Front, Kalonzo Musyoka. He was talking about it. He's also a senior counsel. Um, he was talking about it and he said, well, we don't trust it. The executive is responsible for the harm, so we cannot trust them to really be impartial about it. Um, it offends the rules. This is now Eugene of DAP. Wamalo is saying it offends the rules of natural justice because really you cannot sit in judgment of your own cause. When you're the one who has made a mistake, you cannot sit in judgment of your own cause. So basically, it has to be somebody else who's looking at it. Um, so this was a presidential appointee, and they're supposed to be looking at the people who are protesting during the Azimio protests, Gen Z, and even this year. So for 23, Azimio 23, Gen Z 24, and this year's protest activities. The other big question he raised is that, you know, we need to be careful about some of these statements because where is the budgetary allocation? The framework needs to be, you know, where is the money coming from to give them? And he was saying that the money is going to be punitive. And actually the law, when something like this happens, when you're compensating, when you have, for such injuries, it's punitive, which means that they're on the higher side, basically speaking. And we're talking about at least 60 unalived and so many others injured. You can imagine the sheer enormity of that budget. And it's something that can just be stated by standing somewhere without really projecting on some of these things. This is a substantive amount that they need to set aside. So the question that appear to be a budget line is drawing some concerns about, you know, whether it's really genuine. Yeah, so they want the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights to be the arbiter, to deal with it. They're saying they're the ones who are most fit to do it, to manage it, even constitutionally. I was listening to somebody else who said yes, not just them, but the Independent Medical Legal Unit too. They're the ones who go out and they're the ones who you find them in the forefront when there are injuries, when there's an aliving as a result, you know. So they have the medical background and they also have the legal background. It's a combination of the two fields. Yeah, so that's been something that he's been trying to push, and he made these statements on 6th of August of 2025. That's when he established this coordinating framework. But we need to be concerned. I think the concerns of the opposition are really valid because you don't just appoint somebody from, the person who's been appointed is a presidential appointee. So that if you want to show good faith, it should have been allocated to an impartial body, and that's what basically they're saying. So let's hope that the compensation is paid. I listened to the parliamentarians debating this, the National Assembly, and they said yes, this is a good idea in principle, but make sure that even the police who are injured are also compensated because they were out there in the protests. We do know that some police were injured. We saw that terrible picture of the policewoman who was, you know, she was saved by, you know, another protester because there was some, you know, like we talked in our previous show, there was a mix, amalgam of good and bad in that group. Genuine protesters plus a mix of people who had their own agendas, hoodlums, basically who went out there for other reasons. So yeah, so it's hot on our lips. Let's watch this space and see whether in the 120 days they will deliver. The issue of the listing and approval of who is going to be on that list could also be an area where there could be some corruption and mix-up, or even denial of genuine cases or bringing in of cases which are not genuine. We know that whenever it comes to things like this is where corruption starts. So the framework needs to be really, really one that is thoughtful, one that is thought out, and to ensure that those who are the intended target group is actually the ones who end up being compensated. The issue of the budget allocation, that really needs to be worked on as well. So whether, what this appears to me, like I said, there are many things we've been seeing happening, or announcements being made. It appears to me that we need to see them for what they are, and maybe perhaps um, capitalize on the issues and the ideas to make sure they actually come to fruition. But of course, for something like this, you need quite a huge amount of money. And when we see that we are borrowing money, the government, in fact, of looking at a finance video, and they were talking about uh, the government borrowing, and saying that most of their borrowings from the public through the treasury bills and the infrastructure bonds. Um, yeah, and they're borrowing locally. They're borrowing locally, so they're borrowing from our banks, and they're also borrowing from
And it's the
us
most
when we pay.
expensive way to borrow anyway. The interest rates are
Yeah,
very high. It's difficult for
yeah,
us to get loans, meaningful loans. We're not talking about little loans of 1,000, 2,000, with 5,000.
yeah.
We're talking about serious loans that you can even, purchase a home. Yeah, in the millions. We can't get those loans. It's very difficult to get those kinds
Our
of loans.
debt, our
Yeah?
debt is 11.5 trillion currently.
Yes, it's over 70% of the budget. It's very, very scary.
Yeah,
Very, very,
yeah,
very scary. Yeah. So
yeah.
imagine out of
So,
seven out of every 10 shillings is going to repay debt. Heh,
yeah.
I don't know how we're not in debt distress. The person who introduced me to all of this was Jimmy Wanjigi.
Oh yeah, he
Jimmy
says we're
Wanjigi,
living.
the number one
Yeah,
whistleblower. What? Give him
just
his flowers.
talking.
Give him his flowers.
Yeah,
He educated us. He helped us understand. Everybody understands what odious debt is now. And if you don't understand
yeah,
it, go back and listen to Jomi Wanjigi. Listen to Spice TV, because Spice FM has been really instrumental in helping us understand and bringing to fore a lot of these issues. So we thank Spice FM as well for bringing these kinds of guests and visitors on board.
yeah.
Susan, at some point, I'd
Rigi-
like to now just cover, before we're out of time, I'd like you to wrap up if you don't mind, and then
yeah.
we can cover a little bit of the title, which is about AI and land. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to talk about Rigiji because you
Yeah,
talked
yeah, yeah.
about him
Oh,
earlier.
that's very important. Super.
Yeah, for sure,
Tell
Rigiji.
us what's happening with Ricky G. I thought, has he been thrown out? What's going on? Has he landed? Is he landing? Some people are saying he
No,
should land in, I don't know, Kisumu or Eldoret, or I don't know where he should land. He shouldn't land in Nairobi. Others are saying he's back on a one-way ticket. Sijui nini. What is actually going on with Ricky G?
well, my own reading of the situation, and what I've listened to, my own sources of information, that is from what's the newsmen are saying, um, that he's returning on 21st of August, um, and yeah, that there is a threat to arrest him at the airport. Um, yeah, so he has stayed in the US for over a month. Of course, he's been very vocal, and we've been seeing his clips of what he's been saying there. He has met with a number of people, and he was talking about, in particular, the issue of um, the. Remember, there was a senator who had said that Kenya's status as a non-NATO ally be reevaluated, and um, Ruto, our president, was saying, well, some of these are coming up because America is not happy with the relationship between Kenya and China. But Rigiji is refuting that and said, actually, the Americans are concerned about the links of the gold for guns sort of deal that WSR has, our sitting president has with the RSF. Remember, in some earlier shows, we have talked about that. The RSF, in fact, in response to that, not just the fact that they allowed the RSF to declare themselves here in Nairobi, but the fact that he's engaging in gold trade with the RSF are giving him gold, and he is supplying weapons to them. There was that clip that showed that the weapons was sort of like coming from the Kenya government. I mean, the way they've been created and everything like that showed that the newsmen in one of their journalistic pieces, investigative journalistic pieces, showed that. So there seems to be a link. Also, the issue that he did meet with Al-Shabaab, 3 Al-Shabaab members in Mandera. The concerns of the U.S. and indeed the rest of the world, and even Kenyans is why should we be in any way associated with people who are involved in terrorism? So that seems to be that is the concern according to the DG of the U.S. Government. They want to know what is going on. Why are we linked to these particularly dangerous um, institutions or individuals or organizations that are known to cause terror? So that's what he said, and he said that actually that is what they want to know. Again, the U.S. is concerned about the human rights violation. We know that is a daily topic here in Kenya. The disappearances, the unaliving, the arbitrary arrests, that sort of intimidation, interference with lawful protests, peaceful protests, and stuff like that. Our record is not very good, and they've been observing that too. And things like human rights are things that can make or break your trade with some nations. So basically, the feeling is that Rigaud's message, in a nutshell, was really that he has compromised he has compromised world security for his business interests. He is a businessman, and that's what it's all about. The trading with the RSF, engaging with Al Shabaab is all about self-aggrandization and self building his own coffers. Of course, again, Rigiji is very vocal about the broad-based Raila Odinga and how he sort of compromised himself, Senate itself, National Assembly, Parliament, all these organizations which are supposed to be protecting and coming in there as guards against excesses of government have let us down as Kenyans. So I'm not sure. The reason I found that he was coming back was that he wanted to support some by-elections that are going to take place now, that the IBC has been constituted, and are trying to nominate or put people to stand for those those positions which are vacant, who are young. So that's why he said he's coming back. So whatever other reason, I'm not sure about it. But he has, for sure, said a lot of things up there which have shed light on some things which we've actually seen happening. So, there's some support to some of the things he's saying because we've actually seen them happening. He sort of like predicted that there was going to be an issue with the opposition, with ODM, that was going to sort of try to divide them up, which is what we are actually seeing as we watch. There are those who are in government who are pro, and those who are outside who are not. So ODM as a party seems to be shaky again. And other issues which he has raised, which are of great concern for for us as Kenyan. That's all from me, unless you have something to ask. You're muted. I can't hear you. You're muted.
This is a problem. I tend to mute myself so that I don't interfere. So I think we should mute ourselves. Yeah. So thank you so much, Susan. That has been fabulous. That's a really good summary, and it's interesting to see what's going on with Rigiji and what's happening with Shah, what's happening with the transport sector, what's happening in Kenya. There's so much news. There's no time to even summarize everything. But because we said we're going to discuss well, at least the topic of this particular video is going to be discussed at the end of the video, actually, which is about AI. I wanted, of course, yeah, we were going to do the news highlights, which usually takes a lot of time. And then I just wanted to give a little bit of, an analysis on what's going on in terms of AI and the justice sector in Kenya. And before that, I wanted to also remind Susan of something that maybe she forgot to add, which is that we have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Kenya that has introduced the 8-year contraception, okay, 8-year contraception pill in Kenya. And actually, it's not a pill, it's an intrauterine IUD. It's an IUD, intrauterine device that can stop pregnancy for 8 whole years. And it's being introduced in Kenya first. And that is quite interesting because already, Kenya has been associated with decreasing fertility between the years of 2003 and 2014. Okay, based on demographic health surveys, Kenya's fertility declined. Globally, fertility was in decline in the previous 3 decades, and in sub-Saharan Africa, including Kenya, the decline started. Our fertility rate was really, really declining fast. So actually, Kenya has been in reverse fertility for some time now. However, my recent reviews of my recent reviews have also highlighted that this trend was caused, the fertility has started now to increase again in urban areas. Okay, fertility rates that were previously in decline are now on the reverse. They're now increasing in urban areas, in some urban areas. I guess, as people become more wealthy, maybe, or as people have more access to medical support and things like that, then there's also a higher rate of child survival, lower rate of maternal mortality, things like that, that can actually increase opportunities for women to have children. If you have higher income, of course, then you can support more kids and things like that. But in this particular case, what we want to understand is what is the reason why, Bill Gates decided to bring this fertility treatment to Kenya, and why it is that our country accepted it while countries such as Namibia declined it and said that it was an insult to their country. The president of Namibia actually was pretty offended by that, by the idea of introducing an 8-year contraception, an 8-year contraceptive. Meanwhile, as we know, in developed countries, women are being encouraged to have children because of the population decline in many Western countries. The European population, the American population, especially majority white population, is in decline. That is public knowledge, and it's everywhere. We know that it's there. And so our government is trying to see how to incentivize the population increase in the West, and meanwhile supporting fertility decline in sub-Saharan Africa and in Africa. And what I want to say is, if these kinds of treatments or these kinds of programs were developed by our own people, if Kenyans decided that we want to control our fertility rate because it is too high for us, yeah, it wouldn't be such a big issue. But when we see that we have multinational foreign interests, foreign people launching such things in our countries, then we actually I associate that to a sort of breach, a breach of our sovereignty to some extent, because you see that is impacting on our actual population growth. Yeah, it's an issue to do with our sovereignty as a country. We should look at that more seriously than we are at the moment, because choosing to introduce such IUD barriers in women that will force them to be, they say it's an option, but then they will be in reverse fertility for 8 years. 8 years is a long time. Meanwhile, a lot of women are being encouraged to go back to school. So what happens? You're going to school, you're delaying your fertility. Then when you finally are, during that period, you're using this IUD. We don't know about its side effects. We don't know whether, there'll be another period for which that that might render you infertile, maybe another year or two or more. Following the removal of the IUD, when you're ready to be fertile, then maybe, I'm not saying that you won't, but there is a high potential that you may not, because your body has been trained that way already for 8 whole years. So that is going to be inserted in young women, and you know the majority of our population is anyway under the age of 17, under the age of 35. So we're looking at young women, young girls, these things happening to them. Again, we've also seen reports where children have been immunized without the consent of their parents. This was in the news recently. We saw that children were going to churches, they attending church, and on the way back from church, they find people who are promoting a specific vaccine, and they find themselves, in that situation, that their children have been um, what do we say, vaccinated without the parents' consent or knowledge. These things were happening and have been reported in the news in Kenya recently. So, how do we know that, for example, boarding schools where girls are going to be, places like boarding schools could not be, or colleges, could be places where young women are coerced into taking these, or into introducing these IUDs without understanding, without their full consent and understanding the impacts and the other options that are available to them out there. Yeah, such as condoms, that could also be another way to prevent pregnancy temporarily, not necessarily for 8 whole years. Yeah, and there are very many others, very many others. So I think Kenyan leaders have been accused of, uh, especially by some of the social media people, of treating women like guinea pigs. And we forget that this has repercussions to us. Yeah. So anyway, I think I've spent a little bit too much time on that. And I don't know if I really have very much time. I have maybe like 5 or 10 minutes to discuss AI issues. Okay, so now let's talk about AI. My concern, as much as we had our very first meeting and we actually interviewed Dr. Bitangen Demo, and we talked about AI and the progress of AI in Africa. However, I've also been conducting quite a bit of research on the issues of AI and what could be the potential threats that AI may cause, to our countries. Yeah, we are aware that right now the government has actually implemented training for about 100,000. I think that 100,000 civil servants are going to be trained in the use of AI, or in AI. And the question is, why? Why is there such anything that the government is promoting and pushing in this direction? You always have to look at it, a little bit more clearly. You need to peer into it and evaluate it, and try to, find out what could be the underlying issues. Why are they promoting it? Where are they getting the money for this AI training? Who stands to benefit from AI training? AI upskilling, okay? They're calling it AI skilling deployment in Kenya. So they're talking about it as part of the national AI strategy. So Kenya launched a national AI strategy in 2025 of about 152 billion shillings, which is about $1 billion. Okay, $1 billion for an AI strategy, a national AI strategy. So it covers infrastructure, governance, innovation, and talent politics. Okay, so with this AI strategy, it's looking at 50% of the funding being dedicated to strengthening digital infrastructure for AI systems. Half of it. So if they're looking at strengthening digital infrastructure for AI systems, you can also, and they're saying 50% of the infrastructure build out of that funding is going to go there. A lot of that is going to go back into consulting fees, right? That consulting fees is going to go back to US firms, I believe. Yeah. And or the donor firms, right? Whichever firms are going to be funding this AI strategy. Again, we also have sectoral focus, which is the push for AI integration in healthcare, education, agriculture, security, creative arts, public service, SMEs, business, daily, and things like that. So they're going to push for the artificial intelligence integration into all these sectors, which is a good thing. We have seen the benefits of AI integration in education, in health, in agriculture, in security. Yes, there are very many positives, but there are also some potential negatives. Then again, there'll be AI being embedded in data governance and support for underserved communities, that's what they call it, and then for talent development. From school level curriculum enhancement, they're saying, to university research labs and boot camps and things like that. So basically, this Kenya National AI strategy that was implemented starting in March 2025 for the 152 billion shillings will be covering these areas. Now, what are some of the ethical considerations, however? Will AI jobs, however, be taking jobs away from Kenyans? Will AI be taking jobs away from Kenyans? These are some of the concerns that we have about potential displacement of workers by AI globally, not just in Kenya, but globally. Yeah? And especially in countries where we have a very high population that is unemployed. Okay, we have from between 11 to 43% of the population that is unemployed, according to various sources of data, like we mentioned early in the day. Yeah. So basically, the government is framing the AI as an enhancement tool and not as a replacement tool. Okay. So the strategy is about talent development and things like that. But on the other hand, you saw that 50% of that funding is going to be going into, dedicated into strengthening digital infrastructure for AI systems. When they talk about strengthening digital infrastructure, we're talking about companies coming in, okay, to manage the AI. And I don't know to what extent Kenya is ready for that. Which are the AI companies that we know? What are the AI companies? Think about them. Yeah. So again, there are things that we should also be looking at. Is AI being promoted as a distraction? Is it a distraction, or is it pure innovation? Is it pure public service delivery? So when the government is celebrating AI training for 100,000 civil servants and farmers in places like Laikipia, Taita Taveta, Kajiado, these people still are facing land tenure insecurity and displacement, which is linked to conservation, ranching, and development projects. So we have development projects. We've heard a lot of YouTubers talking about this. One of them is, I believe, what is his name? I'll try to remember his name. But he talks about the con in conservation, okay? The fact that huge tracts of land are barricaded away from the local population. Yeah. So what happens is that people, the community, is no longer has um, access to these lands, yeah. And now again, how the AI is intersecting with land issues is, for example, we have smart agriculture, we have geospatial mapping, we also have tourism and conservation, and we also have the digital registers. So the thing is, whoever controls the AI then controls all of these aspects. So AI is used in precision farming. It's also used in land tilling, and also in the land registries. And the land registries is that my critical issue right now. Okay, the issue of the land registries needs to be considered, because land registries depend on title deeds. A lot of local communities that can claim that these are their ancestral lands do not have access to title deeds. Yet AI needs title deeds. So the question is the AI going to end up, once the land registries are registered using, and once the land registries come up using AI, what that might do is that it might further cement the disenfranchisement of those local communities that can claim their and reduce their claim to ancestral lands. Okay, so for example, we already have one of the big issues here coming up. So for example, at the Masai Mara, we have the Ritz-Carlton Masai Mara Safari Lodge. It's in a court challenge currently. The Ritz-Carlton is a huge hotel, and it's basically a boutique hotel for the very wealthy, where they charge $3,500 a night per stay. So this is part of the Marriott International group of hotels, and they're opening the Ritz-Carlton Luxury Safari Camp. the Masai Mara. So, what is the conflict? The conflict is between the conservationists and the activists, okay, who have filed a lawsuit saying that the lodge is violating the Masai Mara management plan, okay, for new tourism, which blocks banned new tourism developments until 2032. It is also being considered a threat to the migration corridor for wildebeest and other wildlife. You can imagine that when these Ritz-Carlton luxury safari camps set up camps in the Masai Mara, they're going to look for the more strategic locations where the wildebeest and other wildlife are actually migrating. So that corridor may be disrupted, as we know. Again, there's the issue of the land. The local Maasai communities are arguing that while the global luxury brands are making huge profits, they remained land poor and excluded from decisions about their ancestral lands. Okay? So, this focus of the international community on the eco luxury tourism, high tech, wildlife monitoring, Sijui over, what all those, big names, big grammar as they call it, what it's doing, it's overshadowing the land rights debate of who actually owns, controls, and benefits from the Masai Mara. This issue is repeated with the Amboseli National Park devolution. It's also repeated with the digital land registries and AI mapping, and also with other things like the Taita Taveta farmers and elephants. So we will continue this discussion in the future, probably going forward, because it's been quite a while. I've been on this for quite some time now. So I just want to say thank you, for staying with us, and let's think about things broadly, and let's see how we can improve our lot, our people, through the education that we have, through these media platforms that we have. Let us educate each other and let us be there for our countries. They say, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And what we are doing is coming live and hoping that you will subscribe and you will listen in your free time as you're driving, as you're doing your laundry, as you're busy working. Yeah, because these are long shows. So you can listen to them in bits, or you can listen to them as you're doing, or you can sit down and actually listen if you're enjoying it. We hope that you're going to participate with us next time. Yeah, so with that, I want to say thank you very much, Susan, for your time. And yeah, any last words? Or any comments on the issues that I just spoke about briefly?
Yeah, I, I don't know, I got a sense of deja vu when you're talking about the AI framework. It just reminded me so much of how the e-citizen platform was so seriously manipulated. When we have, outsourcing, and when there's no proper framework, you saw that there were so many red flags that were raised by the Office of the Auditor General on that. And I can see that sort of being replicated here, unless there's a framework that is, has is well developed and seeks to capture all those spaces where there might be leakages of income, where money is sent to unknown sources and stuff like that, which is basically what happened, where certain fees are levied which are against the law, where there's outright stealing, duplication, giving the business to your friends to do the outsourcing. We saw from eCitizen that there was repeating names in the companies that were dealing with it. And definitely
That
money
is really true.
easily moved to pay, people who are not authorized to receive that money, actions being taken without receiving approval from National Treasury and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things that I just felt this sense of deja vu as you were talking about it. Like you said, let's talk more about it. For sure, I saw that clip about the interruption with the flow of the path of the wildebeest, and that's really serious. Yeah, I listened to the gentleman
Considering
talking
that the
about it.
Mara is one of the seven wonders of the world, this is
Yeah.
another threat to our sovereignty, isn't it? I don't know
Yeah.
whether I'm taking it too far, but this is a border issue. This is our issue. This is our identity. Kenyans we identify with our wildlife a lot, and this, it's a potential threat to our, economic security, if anything else, if nothing else, our economic security, and even a threat to the community's access to their own ancestral lands. Yeah. So yeah, Susan, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is a big topic that we can talk about at quite
Yeah.
length. You know,
Yeah.
they keep saying that we have to keep up with the times. AI is our reality today. It's going to take up spaces everywhere, and it's something we can't ignore. Checking the abuses. Land office for sure is mostly like digitized. Um, you know, in fact, you don't even go there when you're having land transactions. You have to have like get into what they're calling the Adisasa portal, and you do your transactions there. Even signatures and transfers, and that sort of thing is being done in that way. So definitely the potential for abuse and land grabbing and stuff like that is there, and let's hope that it's a system that has those checks and balances. But basically speaking, I know, for instance, when you have another Adisas account there, if you're to deal with your payment of rates, of not rates, of land rent and stuff like that, it's only you who can access it, because it's like they've developed something that is supposed to be a fail-safe, so you cannot, uh, nobody else can get into that system and apart from you to deal with your property. Um, One thing I'm not sure about, and I don't think it's happened yet, is where they put all the properties that you own under one group. So if, for instance, if I wanted to know how many properties you have, uh,
Yeah.
and I just typed searched your name, I would not be able to get that information. I would have to know the title deed number and all that information. Again, the problem and maybe the challenge which we're also seeing with the business registry is that the information is not up to date.
Uh-huh.
But I think the lands registry could be way ahead of the others, if I'm not wrong, because it seems to be working more efficiently. But maybe we can discuss more about that another time.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah. But that's
Very,
an
very
interesting topic,
Yeah.
talking
I think we
about the
need to talk
ethical
about it.
issues.
Land is a very important thing, especially now that we have so many people who are returning from the diaspora. We have Kenyans who still don't have land. There's have Kenyans whose land is still not title deed, and majority of the land in Kenya actually does not have title deed. A lot of people are sitting on land that doesn't have titles, and therefore many people are land insecure. So those are the things that we should, be careful about, and those who are developing AI systems for land should be aware of, and ensure that that they protect Kenya first. That it's about Kenya first. It's about Kenya for Kenyans first. Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for watching. I hope you're going to watch the recorded show. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. And yeah, thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend and take care. It's from Maureen and Susan. Kwaherini. Bye bye.